Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. I'm Hatchett. This episode, I'm going to be talking about how we can use mindfulness on the field to improve our performance and also improve our enjoyment of the experience that is our sport. So before we get started, if you are a new listener or if you are a current listener of the show, I only have one ask, is that you hit that subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to this show on. It is the cheapest and easiest way for you to support what we're doing here. So that's all I've got for you before we get started, and let's go straight into this episode. So just a brief overview of what is mindfulness. I get asked what is mindfulness, and I think people misinterpret the difference between mindfulness and meditation. So mindfulness, very simply, is the ability to be present in the moment. It is not being caught up or lost in thought and being truly present in where you are, what you're doing right then. That's a very basic overview of mindfulness. You can go into that topic very deeply, but just ultimately you're trying to be as present as you can in the moment. And if you're thinking about dwelling in the future or dwelling in the past, you're not being present. And meditation is the tool in which allows you to practice mindfulness. So it is a form of meditation. Mindfulness meditation is a form of meditation. There are other forms of meditation, but mindfulness meditation is the practice of sitting and trying to be present. So that could be focusing on the breath, which is something we'll talk about quite a bit in this podcast, or it could be focusing on an object, a sound, something that you are being completely immersed in the present moment, rather than, again, thinking about something in the future or thinking about something that's happened in the past. So just very quickly, wanted to give you an overview of what it actually is. So how we can use it and why it would be important for us to use it in sport and on the field or in the moment when we need it most is to allow us to be as totally immersed in the experience that we're doing and the task that we're trying to achieve, the goal that we're trying to achieve at that time. We're not thinking about what is going on in the future. We're not, again, thinking about what's going on in the past and getting caught up in the stories that we're telling ourselves of either one of those things. So how many times have you been in a sport and you've thought about the outcome before it's even happened? You're either worried or excited about the outcome that could happen in the future, or you're dwelling on an experience that's happened in the past. Sometimes you're actually dwelling on a past experience that went well. Sometimes you can be dwelling on a past experience that didn't go so well. Either end of those spectrums, whether it's in the future or the past, you're taking away from what you're doing in the here and now. You're taking away from being totally present. There is a lot of work done in the area of flow, and I had this conversation recently which was about athletes getting in flow, and you can use the word flow and change it for being in the zone. When you're totally immersed in what you're doing, you're so present in the skill, the event that you're in, and you're just at peace with it. You're at one, and it's just flowing beautifully, and you almost can't describe how it's happening. That is ultimately being in flow, or you could say being in the zone. Now, mindfulness practice, meditation practice, they don't necessarily get you straight into it, but they allow you to improve the consistency or improve the chances of that happening again, because you're practicing being present in the moment. You're getting away from that idea of what's going on in the future, what's happened in the past. So being able to do that in the moment, in a game, on the field, in the chaos that's happening on field and in the moment, you are starting to drown out the things that don't matter, whether that's through nerves, the anxieties, the excitements, these storylines that you're telling yourself. They're allowing you to actually put those to one side and focus on what you have to do and be totally present. And the skill of mindfulness, the ultimate goal that I believe that you're getting is self-awareness, is catching your awareness where your attention has moved at any one moment. So the practice of meditation teaches you to practice noticing when you've been distracted and coming back to that focus point. That could be the breath, that could be an object, a sound, something that you've chosen to begin with. And every time you come back to that, you're really building that strength of recognizing when you're distracted and then coming back to that present moment. So if you take, for instance, if you're in a sport and it's chaos, it's maybe the start of 100 meters, it could be a football match, it could be a rugby match, a tennis match, anything. There's going to be a moment where there'll be a pause and your mind will have a chance to almost think. And you want to be able to understand where that mind has gone in that moment. And is it helpful? Is it hurtful? Is it timely? Is what it's saying true? Is the storyline happened yet? Is it a helpful storyline that you're telling yourself? And through meditation, through mindfulness practice, you can start to see your mind much more. You take yourself away from that experience. You view the mind for the mind, and it's the thinking mind, and you take yourself out of it and you just see what it's doing. You just see the experience that you're having. You're able to see where you're thinking, what is your attention on at that time. And then once you've done that, once you've brought your awareness to it, you can actually start to change it. You can actually start to do something about it. So everything I'm saying here sounds like it's a really simple process. It's a learned experience. It's a learned process. That's why meditation is a great tool for athletes. But being mindful, being present in the moment, and being able to do that more often as an athlete on the field is a experience that will allow you to not only perhaps perform better, but actually enjoy the experience better, because you're not caught up in the emotion so much. You're not allowing the emotion to control you all the time. You can actually stay in control of your emotions. So there's a couple things that I wanted to give just for you to try out, to recognize whether you're starting your meditation journey, whether you're actually practicing mindfulness. This is really about, a lot of people talk about mindfulness and it being useful. What I'm talking about in this episode is actually making it a purposeful, useful exercise. So it's mindfulness in practice. Yes, being able to meditate on a mat or in a quiet space is great, but what use is it to you if you cannot use it in the moment? So hopefully here you're going to start to see where you perhaps can use it and why it's so beneficial. So I will practice meditation, I'll practice mindfulness, but then if I'm in a sport and I'm getting caught up in a thought or an experience that is not helpful for what I'm trying to do. So I'll think about, let's say I'm playing golf. Golf is a really good example because you get a lot of time to think about what you're doing just before you're about to hit the ball. And if I am thinking about where I want the ball to go, or where the ball I think may go, or the fears of where I hope it doesn't go, then I'm not currently present in the moment. So that's where I will use breathing, take a breath to recenter myself, take a breath to just recognize and de-stress the body and just connect back to the body. And then what it will allow me to do is I have certain technical cues that I have for golf. So certain things where it might be watch the ball, might be gripping the club a certain way. And that will allow me to then start a chain of events where I remember those things. I'm not caught up in, I've not allowed my mind to get or to go and chase those thoughts that I was thinking about that are negative and not helpful for me in trying to hit the ball. I can actually go back to the process, go back to the things that I'm focusing on to try and hit that ball to the best of my ability, knowing the technical things that I want to do and what I've done in practice before. So it stops your train of thought. It allows you to gain the awareness of where your thought has gone, and then you can go back. So that whole skill and that whole process has been taught and learned over the practice of sitting and meditating, or doing mindful walking, or doing mindful running, or anything that I'm trying to practice mindfulness in. I'm trying to be as present as I can with the experience that I'm having. And the reason we use the breath, the reason the breath is such a powerful tool is because we carry it everywhere. So whenever you see an athlete taking a breath before they do something, to one, calm their system down, calm their nervous system down, but at the same time it brings you to the present moment. It really does allow you to just refocus. And if you can do it as consciously as you can, then that is where you're starting to gain an awareness of what you're actually doing with this practice and where your mind is going at a certain point. So taking that conscious breath, and you practice that through meditation, taking many breaths, recognizing when you get distracted, and you then are able to come back to the present moment. And this is where you can start to shift it into your sport. So you practice it on the mat, you practice it in private, and then you put it into practice when you're actually doing your skill. you need to link up those two. You can't just practice on the mat and then hope that it'll work in the game. It may do. Obviously, there's a chance that there's a chance that it will, and it could have an effect. But you want to also, just for your sake, practice what you've done there and then put it into practice on the field. So taking that mindful breath, take a moment to just notice how the breath feels, and that will allow you to be fully present and then think, what is it that I'm trying to focus on? Where am I trying to put my attention? What am I thinking about? Am I thinking too far in the future? Am I thinking in the past? Whichever way, once you've gained that awareness, you can do something about it. So I would like to then say that the thing you probably have to focus on is noticing what is your most common form of distraction. So what is the distraction that you most commonly feel? And you will have to delve into your experiences here. Or if you're not sure, go and have an experience, go and play your sport and try and note it down at the end. Take a journal. You can do this exercise right now. Just grab a journal, grab a piece of paper and write down, what are the few things that I regularly get distracted with? Now, this could be anything from thoughts of failure. It could be thoughts of overexcitement through success. It could be physical agitation. So it could be I have like this high heart rate. I get sweaty palms. So you're starting to notice that you start to get nervous, or you get anxious, or you get excited. And you're noting all of the things that usually cause distraction. So it can commonly be something that we can't control. And once you've written all these distractions down, write down what you can control, because the goal is to recognize what you can control. And then you want to make a list of the things you can control. So when you have perhaps, let's take the golf analogy before, perhaps hit the ball badly, you've had a bad shot. There's nothing you can do after that you can control other than how you go about the next shot. You can't control what has just happened. You can't control what will happen in the future. All you can do is walk to the ball the next time and then control what you're doing in that next shot. So there will again be the mindset you have, the effort that you put into the next shot, and where your attention is. So just take a look at the things that you can control when you get distracted and make a note of those. So you'll have almost two lists. You'll have a list of the distractions that you recognize that you most commonly have. And this is a list you can obviously go back to, you can add to it, you can take away from it, but then try to think of the things that you can control in that moment, the things that you can control when those distractions happen. And those are hopefully the things that you can go back to using mindfulness, taking that moment to take a breath, to recognize. And I've obviously used the breath as the example here, but you can use other things to be mindful as well. I playing cricket, I've done things where I will feel the ball in my hand, and that again, just really being detailed in how I feel the ball in my hand, like the seam on the ball, the feeling of the leather on my hands. That is a mindful process. It just allows me to reconnect in the present moment, because I may be feeling frustration through what's just happened, or perhaps a little bit of anxiety about what might happen, or a bit of get carried away. And that's worth noting as well, whether it's the fear of failure that you most commonly feel, or whether it's the excitement of success, because both of those can tear us away from trying to do the job and our skills to the best of our ability. If you are getting overexcited, it's just as a hindrance to actually having this fear of failure. So you want to find that medium. You want to find that happy medium. It's not about necessarily one being bad or worse. It's just understanding which one you're at. And then once again, you've had that awareness, you can do something about it. You can train yourself to be aware of the distractions, aware of the things you want to control. Take that mindful breath, have that mindful feeling. Maybe it's the feeling of your feet in your shoes that allows you to reconnect with the ground and just feel that connection. And again, feel totally immersed in that singular moment that you're in. And that will help. So this is a tool that you can definitely use for when things are going badly. But again, like I said, when things are going well, it can allow you to be consistent. So I think a lot of people panic and they want to use mindfulness when they feel this fear. But when things are going well, it's worth making sure that you continue doing things in the same way. You continue doing these things and you don't rest on your laurels, and you don't get complacent in what you're doing and think that just because things are going well, that you can sit back and allow them to go, well, if you can continue doing the things that got you to that place in the first place, and you keep doing this process, then your consistency will be there. Now, we can't guarantee that the outcomes are going to be in our favor. We can't guarantee that we're going to win. There's so many things that we can't control. But this process of being mindful allows you to be aware of the things that are distracting you, where your mind gets taken to. And then hopefully with that list of things that you've got there, the distractions and the controllables, that is what you can then use to keep reminding yourself in that moment, okay, my mind has been distracted here. I can only control this. And that will allow you to be as consistent as you possibly can moving forward. So this is how you hopefully can use mindfulness in practice. Some people think it is just this practice of being in a calm space, in a place where no one is watching you, and it is a powerful tool to be present in the moment for athletes, especially when chaos is going on. And even though it can also seem a really slow process, like it can seem really slow. And there's some sports like football, for example, it's a very highly volatile sport, and it moves very quickly. So high energy. And the idea is that the more you practice this, the quicker the sort of feedback loops become in the brain. And the more you can do this, the quicker you become, and the more almost unconscious you can do this. And that's where you're getting into that flow state. So the more you're practicing it, the better you're going to be at it. It's very, very simple. But the more you practice at it, the quicker you can get from that recognition of thought and that recognition of distraction to then taking that breath, doing something about it, recognizing where your controllables are, and then going on to that and then focusing back on that. The less you practice it, the more you're going to get torn away and moved around and almost puppeteered with the emotions and the thoughts and the experiences that you're going to have, and take you away from what you want to focus on and what means most to you. So again, give this a go. Hopefully those lists, it's a really powerful process, just seeing where your distractions are, just even writing them down. Okay, I know I get distracted here, and then noticing where your controllables are. That in itself is a powerful process. But if you can link it with the skill of meditation and the practice of mindfulness, and use that on the field and put it into your training as well. That's something I didn't mention, is put it into your training. You can go and do this in training athletes I work with. I recommend them to go and practice this, just practice the breathing, and then go and put it into practice when they're training, when they're feeling under the pump, noticing where their distractions are in training, and then use that as another level of their training going up a bit. And that's where you're training your mind as well as your skills, your physicality. So hopefully there's something there for you guys to take on board. If you want to reach out and find out more about how this can help you, you can find me on Instagram at Lewis Hatchett. You can also find the podcast, lewishatchett.com/podcast. So reach out. Let me know if there's ways in which you want to use mindfulness to improve your mindset. I've got some really cool things coming up over the next coming months, which I'm super excited about. And obviously, if you're interested in trying methods like this podcast is sponsored by Sport Yogi, which is an app that allows you to practice yoga, mindfulness, and meditation in your own time as an athlete. So we've recently put some new meditations on there where they're 5, 10, 15-minute meditations, and you can practice them in your own time. They're designed for athletes to use in the experiences that you're going to have in and around your sport. So go over to the App Store on iOS or the App Store on Android, and you can get it there. As a listener of Raising Your Game, you can get 40% off by just using Raising Your Game in the checkout at sportyogi.com/join-now. So you can head over there, get your 40% discount for a year or lifetime subscription, and you can get going with this. You can use it as another part of your tool, whether it's you want to look after your body in yoga or improve your flexibility, your recovery, or if you want to start to really harness your mind using breathing, using mindfulness, using meditation as a tool that can allow you to perform better on the field and also feel better off the field. So hopefully you can crack on with those. Reach out to me and let me know if you're starting those and how you feel about it, and if you're enjoying it. There's loads of athletes that are using it already. You can find Sport Yogi over on Instagram as well, at Sport Yogi, and there's loads of content there for people to use. So I'll I've gone on enough on this episode, and I will catch you guys next week.